Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this practice that is a therapeutic yoga practice for anxiety. So, the first thing we're going to do is ensure that you have enough props. A lot of these therapeutic yoga practices can require a few more props, but not to worry if you don't have any on hand. You can still do something that will emulate the same type of pose or sequence. But if you have these things on hand, it would be helpful. So one of the first things is a squash ball. You can get these on Amazon. They're quite cheap. I think I bought a 3-pack for around $20, so it's not too bad. Or if you have a little ball, even a golf ball, you could try at home. These are nice because they're a bit softer. If you don't have something like this, you might have a spiky ball. And so this spiky ball is from Half Moon, I believe. And it's a little bit softer. It's got a little more give than some of the spiky balls that you get out there in maybe a pharmacy or something like that. If you don't have either of these, you might be able to go to your local hardware store or down to your garage and find a wooden dowel. And so you just need a piece about this size, maybe a little longer if you like. And this will also be a really great tool for yoga therapy. So I'll put these aside for now. And then I've also got a chair. So go ahead and find yourself a chair. If you can put it on your mat, then it can help with the chair not sliding around. Take a seat in your chair. Make sure that your feet can be flat on the floor. See if you can walk your hips to the edge of the chair so that you kind of feel your sit bones are on either side on the edge of the chair. Start to notice the breath, allowing it to come and go. And so you want this sense of rooting down through your feet, rooting down through your pelvis, so becoming kind of heavy. And then from that rooting down, there's a rebound. So we're working with energy in yoga. And so when you root down, there's also a rebounding up from the pelvic floor all the way through the spinal column, out of the crown of your head. Continue to breathe. And just allow your breath to be whatever it is. So you might be breathing through your mouth. Often when we have anxiety, we tend to move to a more shallow mouth breath. And just see what happens if you can shift your breath to your nose. If it's plugged up for some reason, not to worry. I have extra tips actually, so just put something in the comments below and I can share some of those tips to help unplug the nose. But the main goal is to breathe in a way that feels comfortable in your body. And continue breathing. I'm going to share an essential oil with you. And so this one is a very supportive oil when it comes to anxiety. It's an essential oil by doTERRA. I have a link in the oils and props section on my website, treatyourselfwellness.ca. So you can go to that website if you're looking to purchase some of these oils. You can go through my link. They're wonderful oils. They're so supportive for me. They're so therapeutic for me. And I bring them into a lot of my classes that I teach. I offer them in my in-person, in-studio classes, as well as my private sessions. So we want to start thinking about support. And so if you've been following me for a while, you'll understand the importance of self-care. And one of those factors in self-care is where do I bring in support? Knowing where to take it, when to take it, and finding what supports you best. And so I find this blend of oil by doTERRA called Serenity very supportive when it comes to anxiety or tension. And you can rub it on your hands, you can kind of just breathe it in. And I find it kind of washes a sense of calm over my whole being. Even when I'm really kind of high energy and high anxiety, it still brings in a level of calm. It might not last very long if I'm really in anxiety, but it does bring in a sense of support. So we're going to work with a breath, and this is a very beneficial breath for people who have panic attacks or very anxious. You can use it as a support before you might be doing a presentation, or maybe before you have to see somebody that you feel nervous about. And so bringing these little tools in can really help center you in your own being for when you have to take on those harder things in life. And so for this breath, we're going to inhale through the nose if possible. Exhale with a hum. Letting any excess air all the way out. Inhale. Exhale to hum. Letting any excess air out whenever you feel it's right for you. There's no need to really push or try to hum all the way to the end. Finding a sense of what feels ease, has a sense of ease to it. And if it doesn't, then let it go and come back and practice again. Maybe a couple hours later, you can try the humming bee breath or Brahmari breath. The next layer is to tap through the chest as you're humming, as you're breathing. So I've tented my fingers and I'm gently tapping through the fascia of my chest. You can increase the tap where it might feel good, like there's kind of maybe some tension or restriction somewhere and it feels really nice to kind of tap harder. Or you can decrease the tap if it's feeling a little invasive or a little too much for you today. Just very gently tap while practicing Brahmari breath. You can tap into the neck. Maybe there's some tense muscles there. The jaw. Sometimes we have really tense muscles around the jaw. Going into the face, under the eyes, near your sinuses, gently tapping in here. The temples, the forehead. Behind the ears, and then through your skull if you can, gently tapping on the fascia of the skull. Maybe even spend some time at the base of the skull. There's often a little bit of restriction there in our fascia, which can cause tension in the neck. And letting this go at any time. If you feel like you want to have a break, just come to this resting point. You can take a cleansing breath in through the nose, out of your mouth. In through the nose, like you're trying to fog up a mirror. One more. Humphrey thinks it's time for his bone. And so again, you can take a break at any time and then come back in. You can continue tapping with tented fingers through the fascia of the arms. You want to move into the areas that are fleshy. You want to avoid the bones. There's no point in really tapping on the bones. It can hurt actually for some. So trying to let the arm be really jiggly and then tapping into the flesh and the fascia. So I'm just using the backs of my fingers to tap. And you can bring in, if you have different supports, you can try, instead of tapping, you can try rolling the squash ball. And so you're gently rolling it into that soft flesh. While you're breathing, you can bring in the Brahmari breath if it feels okay for you, or just a regular breath. And you want to receive the prop. So that might sound a little weird, but you want your fascia to be really soft. And that's why we do some of the breathing exercises to help the fascia relax, because when we're in our stress response in the nervous system, what happens is the fascia starts to kind of harden and tighten. It almost turns into a cement wall and makes it really difficult, and it doesn't feel very good as well to try to massage or to try to really receive the compression of what the prop is offering you. And so if that's the case for you, I would go back into gently tapping. Sometimes it's even invasive to feel the tap, so what you can actually do is sweep. So sweeping from the upper shoulder, away from the heart, you're imagining you're sweeping energy off of you. Anything that no longer serves you, anything that feels like icky. While you're breathing, you're sweeping this energy away. You can sweep it off the legs. You can lay down and do this and sweep it off the lower legs and the feet. And then you can bring in, if you've got even a wooden spoon at home for this portion, you can bring in tapping with the dowel or the spoon. And so you're gently tapping into the upper shoulders, the muscles of the upper shoulders, between the shoulder blades, avoiding the bones. Switching hands when you can. You want to think of receiving the vibration of the tap all the way through the skin, through the flesh, even into the bone marrow, as if that vibration is moving all the way through that outer layer of your body to the deepest inner layer. So spending some time here, whether you're gently tapping with fingers, using a ball, maybe a wooden spoon or a wooden dowel, while you're staying connected to your breath. And so sometimes using a humming bee breath, because of the sound, helps us stay connected. When we stop making the sound, sometimes we can stop breathing, because especially for people who have anxiety, we're usually living in our stress response at that point when we have anxiety. And so the nervous system sends messages to become a more shallow breather or to stop breathing altogether. So it's very important with this practice to return always to your breath. I have always loved the saying, the yoga practice begins and ends with your breath, as life begins and ends with your breath. So I'm just gently tapping the flesh of the pelvis, the low back. And so what this is doing for people who are anxious is it's bringing us back into our body. It's a very grounding technique to tap, to bring our awareness and our energy back into our body. Often when we are anxious, we have a lot of energy in the mind up here. And so grounding our energy into the body can be a very helpful practice. So just continuing, finishing up your tapping, whether you're using a dowel, maybe cupped palms, maybe sweeping is serving you best, or tented fingers, or maybe the ball. If you have a ball, it can feel really nice, especially around if you've got knee tension or a lot of sensation in the knee. This is always a nice one for me because I have a lot of sensation in the knee. I wouldn't say I'm dealing with any knee issues, but especially when you start to invite the ball into the fascia, all that connective tissue. And so what we're doing here is hydrating the fascia, which allows it to slide and glide more freely, which helps us as we move through our day. Then the whole leg can work a little bit more freely. It's not restricted. And often when we have those restrictions, that leads to pain, which can often lead to anxiety. So I'm just rolling the ball around the knees. Again, if you don't have a ball at home, you can just be massaging the knees or tapping around the knees. And so we do this tapping practice and fascia release in my Tuesday class. And that's a class that I offer every week at 1 o'clock Pacific time. And I offer it here locally, and then I also can offer it via Zoom. So if you want to join that class, it's a really nourishing class. You can reach out to me and we can get you set up with a Zoom link. And if you can't join live because that time doesn't work for you, but you want to experience the class, we send a recording of the class out to anybody who has registered. So even if you don't join live, you'll still receive the recording after. And then you can go ahead and download that recording, keep it for as long as you want to use at your leisure. Good. So finishing up, wherever you're at, you might be feeling like you could do a little more tapping on one side or the other. Sometimes it's nice to roll the ball into the hands. We can get a lot of connective tissue or fascia restriction through the wrists. So still breathing. We're going to invite in, as we're working here, the extended exhale, which can also help with anxiety. After you inhale, see if you can let the whole exhale out, all of your air, all the way out. And notice that when you're letting it out, the belly button is drawing in and up. Continue working with the extended exhale. And now if this feels like a lot at once, and it can for many people, especially when you're first starting yoga, to think about breathing and think about doing this and think about my feet on the floor, and all these things can cause more anxiety. And so if that's the case for you, the key is the breath. So bring it back to the breath and let the rest go until you have the breath. So right now we're talking about the extended exhale. So you're inhaling, exhaling completely, letting all of the air out. Repeat a couple times. You might layer on noticing the belly button, drawing in and up on the exhale. Maybe that took you away from the breath. If so, just return to your breath. Inhale. Exhale completely. So rule of thumb, if you're feeling like you're getting lost, you can either pause the video, figure out what I'm saying, maybe rewind, or come back to the breath. Let everything else go, find your breath, and then see if you can layer other aspects on. Okay, so we're going to come to standing. You can stay seated if it's feeling more comfortable in your body today, but often when we're feeling anxious, it's nice to stand up and kind of move around. And so I've talked a little bit about Langana and Brahmana in some of my videos, and so these are two different styles of yoga techniques that we use to either bring the energy up or to bring the energy down. And so flowing can help us ground. And by flowing, I mean marrying the breath to the movement. So we'll start with a quick kind of practice in that. First, you want to find your feet below your hips. And so sometimes when we do that, we think our hips are a lot wider than they are. And so you want to bring your feet right below the hips. And then notice how your feet have landed on the mat. Are they turning out? Are they turning in? And see what it feels like to line up the outer edge of your foot with the outer edge of the mat. I have my toe spacers on today. You don't need them, but they are, again, another nice support to bring in. Finding your breath, growing a little bit taller. Simply breathing here while standing. You might notice where you're feeling a little bit of pressure in the foot. You might shift your weight around a little bit just to notice, okay, if I move this way, it feels different than this way, or back to front. See if you can find your center where your foot is evenly weighted into the earth. Maybe you're using the extended exhale. Maybe you're just focusing on finding the breath. And so we're going to do a flow. And that's an inhale, the arms out to the sides, palms face down. Relax your shoulders. Exhale, palms back to the hips. Inhale, arms out. Exhale, arms in. Now we're flowing with our breath. Inhale out. Exhale in. 2 more. Good. So if that's your first flow, you've just completed a flow practice. And so essentially flow means to marry the breath or synchronize the breath to the movement. So we inhaled when we moved the arms out, and we exhaled when we moved the arms in. So that's a nice easy flow to start with. If that feels okay, then we can continue working into some other poses. Before we do that, I want to roll out the feet. And so if you have the ball, we're going to work with that one today. If you don't, then work with any other props that you have. You might even have some of those foot rollers at home. Some people have those things, or marbles can work. You can be in a seat if this is feeling like it's going to be a little bit challenging, or you're not going to feel safe, comfortable, maybe where you could find some pleasure in this process. So find a seat with your prop to begin rolling. And so first we're going to roll the foot that is on the side that's the weakest, I guess you would say. So if you have one side that feels stronger, that's going to be the side that's going to support us first. So for me, it's my left. And so I'm going to shift my weight into my left foot. If you're seated, you simply lift the foot or the side that feels it could use some support. And we're bringing that ball to the toe mound, the big toe mound, pressing it into the fascia of the foot, and then rolling it through the inner arch to the heel. Roll it back while you breathe. So we're going to flow. Inhale to roll the ball back to the heel. Exhale to roll the ball from the heel to the toe. Moving from each toe mound, inhale to the back. Exhale to the top. Following your own breath. Using the support of the chair or a wall if you're feeling kind of wobbly. And then sometimes when we put our weight into the standing leg, we really bump this hip out. So notice if you're doing that. If so, send more energy down through the inner toe mound of the standing foot and the inner heel, which allows the hip to come back into alignment. Breathing as you're rinsing out this foot with the ball, or rolling it out with a dowel. It might even feel good. For me, it feels really nice. I do this almost daily now, and it's very beneficial practice to do daily. So avoiding any areas that don't feel good, and then maybe spending more time in areas where it feels kind of tense or there could be a fascial restriction. And then coming off that foot, we can shake it out. I like to take what's called palm tree, allowing the hands to swing back and forth, taking a bit of a wider stance. The hips are shifting and swaying back and forth. And then let the head and neck swing with your breath. Cleansing breath in through the nose, out of your mouth. You might even visualize yourself on a beach, like a palm tree. Swaying in the wind. Good. So if you get really dizzy with that one, you can use different releases. So the other one I offer for people is standing with our feet below the hips, inhaling the arms up, exhaling to bend through the knees, and imagine you're sending energy behind you with your hands as you exhale with a cleansing breath. Throw it away, throwing away anything that's no longer serving you. And you can even hold onto a chair while you do that one if it feels like it's a little bit, making you feel out of balance or dizzy. There's always a way to bring in more support. Okay, so we're moving to the other side. So you can switch your chair to the other side if that feels better for you. I'm just going to leave mine. Transferring the weight to the other foot. When you transfer, start to bring that heel up and see how that feels in the standing leg. It might feel like your hip wants to bump out, so remembering to drop the weight down into the inner toe mound and the inner heel. If it feels okay to lift that other foot, you feel safe, comfortable, like you might not regret this later. If it's too much, just come to the chair and roll your feet. A big part of this practice is honoring where we're at in our journey. There's no other place you need to be. And then see if you can flow with your movement and breath. Inhaling from the top of the foot to the back. Exhaling from the back of the foot to the toes. Repeating through the whole foot. Noticing if your shoulders are really coming up and you're scrunching the face. See if you can let some of that energy relax the shoulders down away from the ears. And spend a few minutes rolling this foot, avoiding areas that feel like they hurt. That's a message from your body, and there's no need to push through pain. It's one of those misconceptions that we have for whatever reason. When that side feels like it's complete for you, stepping off the ball, taking your choice of release. So it could be the palm tree, it could be, I call it breath of joy with the arms coming up. And then letting go any tension, any stress, anything that is built up in you that you no longer want to hold on to. You can think of the same thing while you're doing palm tree with each breath. Letting that stuff that's causing you to have anxiety, it's usually worries or stress, stuff that you can't do anything about in this very moment. So let it roll off of you. You deserve to feel good. You deserve to feel well. And a lot of times when we have anxiety or stress, there's a deeper belief happening that we don't trust, right? We don't trust that the outcome will be okay. We maybe don't trust ourselves. We don't trust the space we're in. And so doing a practice that starts to build trust, like yoga therapy, can counteract anxiety almost immediately. It takes practice, it takes commitment, but you will start to see it just melt away. And that's why it's such a beautiful practice. Okay, that's enough of my rant for today. We're going to move into a little bit of standing work. So you can put your props aside. Put Humphrey's bone aside, his little prop. And we're going to first come into a little bit of a forward fold. So that's why I have the chair here. The other option is to use blocks, but we're just going to work. Often our low back is quite tight. And so we want to release it, but there's no need to throw our body all the way into trying to touch our toes. There's a lot of work that we can do along the way. So find yourself behind your chair, feet planted on the floor. If you're not comfortable standing, you can do this in a chair, seated. Find your breath. Maybe cleansing breath. Becoming aware of the breath. And then returning to a regular nose breath if possible. Maybe an extended exhale where you let all of the air out. I'm also going to offer a sound breath today. And so that the humming bee was one, but let's work on the shh breath. So when you inhale, we're then going to exhale with a shh sound. And you might notice where your body starts to gather and contract when you make a shh sound. So where do you feel it? For me and for a lot of my clients, it's right here in the midsection, which is a wonderful tool when we want to connect to our center and our diaphragm, which helps us breathe. So we're going to use that breath as we move into a forward fold. So I'm going to step back a little bit. Inhale. Exhale. This time, inhale, the arms up overhead. Relax your shoulders. Exhale, bend through your knees. Send the hips back. And then you can bring the fingertips to the chair in front of you. So if you need to adjust your stance, maybe you're a little far away. You can see here I have a nice flat back. My shoulder blades are drawn down my back. My low rib cage is hugging in, especially with the sh breath. Sending the hips back, generous bend in the knees. You might come all the way down towards the top of the chair. So there's a rule, 70% or less effort. So if you feel like coming down lower is taking you past 70% effort, then just don't go there. Stay at only 70% or less effort. If you feel like you'd have to go to 100 to come all the way down, don't do it. Just stay where you're honoring your own practice, your own body, your own journey. This is where the magic happens, is that 70% or less effort. Staying with the breath. One more inhale if you're still with me. Come out anytime. And then use your exhale to root into your feet and roll the spine back up to standing. Okay, now take your release or your check-in. Cleansing breath. Letting the stress roll off of you or anything that's not worth holding on to. There's no need to hang on to that anxiety, that stress. We really do have a hard time sometimes allowing ourselves to let it go. And that is also part of the practice. Good job. So we did a forward fold. We've done some fascial release. And now we're going to move into a little bit of standing flow. So we're going to walk the feet a little bit wider than hip width distance apart. You can keep your chair here if you're feeling like you want the balance, or have a wall next to you while you do this. And then we're sending the toes just out into a 45-degree angle. So we're not lining the outside of the edge of the foot up anymore. We want a 45-degree angle. Toes are kind of pointing to the corners of the mat. We're going to find the stance in our feet, just like we did when we were standing in mountain pose, which is the feet below the hips. Now we've got the feet wider, and we can shift our weight around in the feet, noticing the big toe mounts. Breathe. Noticing the heels. Breathe. Noticing the pinky toe mounds. Breathe. And now see if you can drop 25% of your energy or your weight into the big toe mounds. Breathe. And 75% of your weight or your energy into the outer heel. So you want to imagine you're sending that 75% energy into the outer heel and then out. 25% in big toe mounds. So that's right here at the ball of the foot. 75% out of the outer heel. Breathe. Now let's try 50-50. 50% energy into the big toe mounts. 50% energy into the outer heel. Breathe. Noticing any difference. And now finally we'll do 75% in the inner big toe mount. And 25% in the outer heel. Sending it out. Breathe. Now find what felt the most supportive to you. Was it 50-50? Did it feel better to put more weight into the big toe mound and less into the heel? Where do you feel the most supported? You choose. Find your breath. And then from that sense of rooting down, again, we're working with the energy, the opposite energies, sending the weight down into the feet where you've decided. And then a rebound of lifting it up through what we call the dunda. So that's the pelvic floor, it's the staff, through the torso and the center column of the body. So rooting down and then rebounding to lift through the dunda out of the crown of the head. You can even take your hand to the top of your head and kind of see what it feels like to grow taller, pressing the top of the head into your hand. Now invite in your shh breath. Shh. Feeling the core contract. So you have these energies working for you in opposition, and then you have this beautiful sense of power. Your source is your breath and your center. Roll the shoulders back and down, maybe a couple times. Shh. Shh. Now we're going to flow. So we're going to inhale to draw the arms up overhead into a nice 5-pointed star. So fingertips are reaching out, arms are in a V. And then exhale to bend through your knees. Shh. Bring the arms down into goalposts. They might be more in front. That might feel better. Shh. Good. Inhale, press up. Exhale, goalposts, bend through the knees. Shh. When you're doing this, you want to press the knees back. You want to imagine, you can take the arms out of it, sending the knees over the second or middle toe so that the knees are coming back a little bit. They're not just rolling in. So if you just want to work with the knees, we can start there. Inhale. Exhale to squat, sending them over the second toe. Doesn't matter how far you go down here, rooting into the feet, lifting up through the dunda. Breathe. Shh. Inhale, press up. Exhale, flow down. Shh. Inhale, press up. Exhale, flow down. Shh. If you hear clicking and popping, only go to just before that happens. And that means your fascia is restricted, which is okay. We can work with that. But there's no point in trying to blow through it and really push the body. Go to where you know it's about to click or pop. And then press up. And so what you're doing is hydrating that fascia before you get through the restriction. So you're essentially helping that fascia or that restriction that's causing the clicking and popping to hydrate so it could start to release. For me, I'm hearing a lot in my left, so I'm only going to go down a little tiny bit. It's all about staying really connected. Good, now let's just do the arms. So we'll inhale the arms up, 5-pointed star. Exhale into goalposts. So here we want the shoulder blades to draw down your back as if they're kind of hugging towards each other, opening through the heart. But when you open through the heart, make sure the rib cage is staying knit into the torso. Again, noticing any clicking or popping, it's not worth it to push through. So only go to where you would normally click or pop. Staying on this side of it. So nourishing the fascia with movement and breath on this side of it. Good, we can shake that out. I'm going to leave it for today, but you can use that same practice and marry the two together, right? Just like we did at the very beginning. So if the body's feeling good, the fascia's hydrated, and you want to go into full expression and ground and then squatting down, you can practice with both. Okay, so we're going to come into a lateral release. So this is going to be side body. And so again, you can do this from seated or you can do it from standing. And so the idea is to open up the sides of the body. So we'll flow with this practice as well. So you want to find your footing, whether in a chair or standing, finding that 25 or 75, 50 or 50, wherever it feels best. Rooting down through big toe mounds, outer heel. And then when you do that, you might notice there's a little bit of a lifting in the arches of the feet. So that's that rebound. When we root down, send the energy out of the outer heel, there's a little bit of a lifting through the inner arch. Kneecaps might lift. And then your tail might sink down. You might think of a big dinosaur tail behind you that's huge and it hits the ground and extends way back. Rolling the shoulders, relaxing them down away from the ears, and then inviting in your breath to really feel a three-dimensional gathering in at the center of the body. Growing a little taller, you might take your hand to the top of the head. Noticing if the chin wants to come up, see if you can keep it parallel with the earth. I like to think of an elastic band between my chin and my heart that I don't want to extend too much. Open through the heart, yet tucked through the rib cage. Good, now we're going to flow. Inhale. Exhale to reach up and over, like you're picking a piece of fruit. Inhale back to your hip. Exhale, reach up and over. Inhale back to the hip. Exhale, up and over. You can slow this down. Working with your breath. Whatever speed your breath wants to go. And it's okay to switch it up too. So a lot of people get confused if I'm saying, oh, inhale this way and exhale this way. They think, oh, my body doesn't want to do that. That's totally fine. Reverse it and see if that suits you better. So we'll reverse it. We will inhale to pick. Exhale to come back to the hip. Shh. Inhale to pick. Exhale back to the hip. Shh. Couple more. Shh. So you're reaching, keeping the arm bone nice and connected while you're reaching. So we're really opening through the side body. Shh. Good, and we can shake that out. Take your favorite version of a release. Good, and so we're going to end our practice now with a mudra that's good for, can be good for anxiety. And so there's lots of different ones out there. I often like to give my clients about 3 to work with if they come to me on a private session, just to see what's working for them and their body and their mind. One that might work for one person might not work for somebody else. So I'll share with you today Mirti Mudra. And so this one, if you haven't already come to your seat, then go ahead and do so. You can even walk the hips to the back of the seat if you find that more supportive. Or if you're ready to lay down and you feel comfortable to lay down on your mat, feel free to do so. Or take me to your couch if you've got one available and you can bring me on your smart device. So finding the most comfortable spot for you, where you can relax while feeling that your spine is nice and long and supported. And where you can find this sense of letting go, of kind of dropping down. So if you're in a chair, we're dropping the feet down into the earth. The pelvis is heavy. And then we're getting a little bit taller in the spine. Relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the muscles of the face and the jaw. You might move the jaw back and forth a few times or open it wide. And then allow the jaw to settle with the lips slightly parted and the tongue is soft like a cotton ball in the middle of the mouth. Closing the eyes or finding a soft gaze. And allowing the breath to come and go naturally, freely, maybe with ease. And so to take this mudra, you're going to interlace the fingers so that the right thumb is on top. And then extend the pinky fingers, pressing them gently into each other. And so you're also pressing the palms gently into each other so the palms aren't apart. So this is what it looks like. Relaxing the shoulders back and down. Elbows are gently gathering into the side body. And you can place this right on the lap if you are comfortable to hold it in that position. I'm going to keep it in front of my solar plexus, this center place of the body. Oops. This one. Cleansing breath. So this is the gesture of the body. And I think I have this mudra practice as a separate video. I don't know if it's on my YouTube, but it's definitely in my online program, Yoga Therapy to Heal, Freedom Formula for Chronic Pain. And so the mudra can help us cultivate this sense of feeling comfortable in our own body and steady in our own body. And so when I have anxiety, sometimes I don't feel comfortable in my own body. I feel like I want to crawl out of my own skin. So using this mudra I find supportive. But again, it may not work for you. Feel free to drop comments in the below the video and I can offer you something different perhaps. And so when you're using mudras, the idea is that we are realigning different energetic systems of the body, or nadis, energetic channels of the body. They're called nadis in Sanskrit or yoga tradition, philosophy. And so we have over 72,000 of them all the time, and they can get really blocked or stuck, especially when we're having some sort of ailment or a sense of dis-ease in the body or mind. And so we'll hold the mudra. We can practice this if you're using it as a form of therapy. I would try it 3 times a day, starting with about 5 minutes at a time or less, seeing how that feels, and then maybe moving up from there to about 15 minutes a day or less. So finding this place of feeling comfort, finding your breath. You can use your breath, the sound of your breath, as an anchor. To me, my breath sometimes can sound like ocean waves going in and out. Again, returning me to the beach. And if this doesn't feel good to be still, it can feel really hard sometimes to be still when we are anxious. Then let it go. Move back into some flow with the body, marrying the breath to the movement, maybe going for a walk, expending some energy, lighting a bit of a fire in the body. So whatever does that for you, gets the heat happening in the body, that can also help release anxiety. And then noticing our thoughts. What kind of thoughts are running through the mind? A lot of us identify with our thoughts, thinking that we are our thoughts. And when in fact, we are not our thoughts. We are the observer of our thoughts, the consciousness behind the thought that's watching it come through the mind. And so when we can detach ourselves from the crazy thoughts that are coming through the mind all day, we can understand a little bit more peace, that those thoughts are essentially our ego. And so there's tons of literature on this. I've got lots of resources in my online program for people who want to delve a little bit more into this idea. But instead, just observing your thought or thoughts, allowing them to come and go, kind of acknowledging them, saying, okay, I see that thought, I see you, and now I release you. I like to imagine thoughts as clouds passing in the sky, gently coming into awareness, seeing the cloud or the thought, and then slowly watching it leave. Sometimes our thoughts are coming in so rapidly, it's hard to find any space between them. And so if that's the case, I bring my own thought in. I choose a thought that I know will be supportive instead of all these random thoughts coming in that aren't supporting me. And so for today, we're going to offer a few different ones. And so say them to yourself in your mind. And then see which one feels like it fits, like it resonates, like it feels like it can be in your whole body. And the ones that don't, just let them go. So I'll repeat them out loud, and then you can say them out loud or in your mind after me. Closing the eyes or finding a gaze down the bridge of the nose, known as a drishti. Cleansing breath. I am at peace. I am safe. I trust I will be okay. I am at peace. I am safe. I trust I will be okay. Maybe turn up the corners of your mouth slightly. See if that serves you. I am at peace. I am safe. I trust I will be okay. Or, even better, I trust I am okay. I trust I am okay. I trust I am okay. Good, letting that go, shaking out the hands a little bit, or lingering if it feels good to stick around, lingering in Murti mudra a little bit longer. I apologize for my pronunciations. They are definitely not on point. And then we'll close together with one final breath, inhaling through the nose, exhaling out of the mouth, hands together at heart center. Bow your head to your hands. And take the energy of the heart and infuse that energy into the thoughts of the mind. The energy of the heart is love, unconditional self-love, forgiveness, empathy, and compassion. Raise your head up, draw your thumbs to your third eye, and you can choose, if you'd like, to repeat after me. Think kind thoughts. Thumbs to your lips, speak kind words. Thumbs to your heart, do kind things. And thank you all for sharing your practice with me here. I feel truly honored that you stopped in to check this out, and I really hope that it is something that supports you. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and watch for the next video drop. Take care.